Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck and I get to talk history. That's what we're doing here today. We're going to go by stagecoach with my friend Darrell and his son Floyd. Welcome to Journeys and Journals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where do we start on this big trip?
Well, I guess the theme of our story today would be stagecoach stops. And the first one, we'd start down in Siskiyou County around Wairika this way, and the first stage stop would be actually up on top of a little peak called Anderson Grade. And the reason the stagecoach stopped there was to rest the horses. It was a long uphill pull from the Shasta River to the top of Anderson Grade. And one day when they stopped there, Black Bart was there also, and he stepped up on the rock there and relieved them of their strongbox. And they put a sign up there that tells the day and everything that Black Bart held up the stagecoach.
Now, you have some recollection of that?
Yeah, when I was growing up and went to going to school in Wairika, my dad took me up there. We used to go up squirrel hunting up there, and we take pictures standing on Black Bart Rock. And actually, I chipped off a piece of Black Bart Rock and gave my grandmother. She had it for years. I don't know whatever happened to
Grandma.
it.
That was in 1959.
Okay. Well, now, when was Black Bart doing all this stuff?
Tells you right there.
Oh, in 1881, a very good year.
Yeah.
So we do know that Black Bart was out here in...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he held the stage up right there. And the sign tells you the day and everything.
And I can drive right to this place?
Well, not anymore. But in 59, when we used to go up there, you could follow the old stage road from Shasta River over the Anderson Grade down to the Klamath River. But in the years of 72, 3, and 4, that's 1972, 3, and 4, they put the freeway through, I-5 through. And when they put I-5 through, unfortunately, they cut the old stage road in 4 different places. So we can't get up there no more, except you'd have to walk, and it's too far a walk for me. But
And too many
Boyd's going to
rattlesnakes.
walk it the next time we go down.
You're telling me rattlesnakes?
Too many rattlesnakes also to walk.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Lots of rattlesnakes on that hill.
Now,
Yeah.
you've taken your dad, you've been there in times past, and how did you transport your dad last time you went up those?
Oh, I got him to get up in my Jeep, which he didn't like to do, but he got up in there anyway, and we just headed off over the mountains and wherever we could go, and some places in 4-wheel drive, and some places we got out and walked a little bit, but we actually could never get up to where the Black Bart Rock was. But we did get to everywhere we needed to go, either in 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive. But
Or 2 legs?
or 2 legs, yeah, for sure.
But you saw this when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah,
and
you bet.
You've
Yeah.
seen it. Black Bart, I mean, he's famous, infamous, I guess.
Yeah,
But what was the next stop after
After that, well,
Anderson Grade?
okay, now,
Do you know who?
this is,
Do you know who Anderson was?
no. Just,
Okay.
It was named after some man, I'm sure, Anderson Grade, yeah.
Okay.
See, this is the part of this stage road that I'm not clear on, the history part. There's obviously 2 roads over the Siskiyous. We know that Black Bart held up the stage on top of Anderson Grade because Anderson Grade was one of the roads over the Siskiyous,
Right.
down through to Hornbrook and then up over the Siskiyous. But we found out also that you can go to Hilt, California, and go through Hilt Valley on what they call Coldstein Road. Goes clear up to Coldstein Mineral Springs, and on that road is the coal station, their stage stop. So apparently you could go over Anderson Grade through Hornbrook and up over the Siskiyous, or you could go to Hilt Valley and go to Coal Station stage stop and right up Coldstein Road, and they come out up on top of the Siskiyous. Why they had 2 routes, I don't know. And the lady at Coldstein could have probably straightened it out on me, but she's the one I lost her phone number, so he's going to have to drive me back up there again.
Yeah. That's not too hard to do. I'd gladly do that. That's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
unbelievable.
So there were two roads. We don't know if one was a toll road. Maybe that would.
No, I'll come to the toll road here pretty quick.
Don't let me jump ahead.
Okay,
Here's
now-
more pictures.
Now, one way or the other, they got up over the Siskiyous. Then they got down the other side. And the next station stop was down at the foot of the Siskiyous. That was the old Barron stage stop. I knew the last two Barrons personally that lived and died there, brother and sister. And
Their names?
Hugh Barron and Austin Barron.
Okay.
They were cattle people, both of them. Hugh was married and had run cattle. His sister Austin was a cattle woman, but she never married. She always stayed single. And this house here is made out of 4 thicknesses of brick. The walls are thick like that, and that's where they kept their food. Made that way, it maintained an even temperature of 52 degrees all the time.
Why don't we build that way anymore?
Yeah. And anyhow, once they got over the Siskiyous, coming down this side towards Ashland, they had to go. There's the toll gate, the Dollarhide toll gate. Old man Dollarhide owned a big ranch up there, and all the freight wagons, the stagecoaches and everything cut right through his place. And he wanted them to pay a little bit, and nobody would. So he built the toll gate, and then they had to pay 25 cents a wagon or a horseback or however they're traveling to cross his place.
Mr. Dollarhide was not a dummy, was he?
No.
There they go on this stage. Here's a stage, and this might have been like Black Bart.
Well, yeah, and see, Black Bart got them on Anderson Grade, and then they come on over the top and down in, and then, okay, then when they, okay, the next thing they would have done then was the stagecoach stop down here at Rocky Point on below Gold Hill.
Okay, now.
The 1852 stagecoach stop there. I don't have a picture of that.
Well, Rocky Point's someplace we can go to now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you know it's the one I was
I-5.
telling you about, where the big vineyard is down here, just this side of Gold Hill.
The Del Rio Orchard.
Used to be the old Del Rio Orchard.
And this is still in existence?
No, this is, now that's not the Rocky Point one. I don't
Okay.
have a picture of it.
Well-
You got to take me down there to get one.
Well, maybe we'll just put
Yeah.
it in here.
But-
because it was the stage stop right next to the Rogue River.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Right next to the river.
And
And at one time, if you go in the wine tasting room, they have a big picture on the wall of an old wooden bridge across the river right there. And then once later, they went about 10 feet up the river, just 10 feet apart, and built another wooden bridge right alongside of it. I guess the first one got rickety or something, and they just made another one right alongside of it. And then from there, they crossed the river, and was on this side of the river then. So then they came up, what's that road, Floyd, that Colvin's on?
Colvin Oil, Foothill
Yeah.
Boulevard.
Huh?
Foothill Boulevard.
Foothill Boulevard, yeah. The stage come up what's now Foothill Boulevard, and wound up over here. There was a stage stop right where Louse Creek crosses underneath the freeway. That's where the stage stop was. So from Rocky Point, they came to Louse Creek.
Are you talking 15, 20 miles,
Yeah.
15 miles
Yeah,
apart?
probably.
Yeah.
Now that would have been flat travel,
Well, it's a little bit uphill on part of it.
but
Not too bad.
nothing like those
No.
first pictures
No.
where you're showing mountains.
And they run stages according to the weather, because they just had dirt roads. Now if it was a big Concord stage with 4 head on it, that was pretty much just in dry weather.
Yeah.
When it got wet and muddy and the ruts got bad, then they cut down to a littler stage called a mud stage, generally speaking pulled by just one team. Sometimes if the mud was real bad, they would put 4 head even on a small mud stage.
4 head, you're talking horses' heads,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's
4
what
head of
that-
horses, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, now,
And now, okay, then from Louse Creek, they went to Jump Off Joe Creek. Now, Jump Off Joe Creek wasn't a stage station where they took on new horses. It was just what they called a rest station. They stopped there, watered the horses, rested them, let people stretch their legs before they started up over Mount Sexton.
Now,
Then they went over Mount Sexton, down into Sunny Valley, and this was the next stage stop right here.
well, I've been there.
Yeah, well, you've been in this building here, which was built very much Betty patterned.
Look at the I mean, that is like,
she duplicated the old stage stop.
and I can go there. It's a museum.
There, this here isn't there, don't exist no more.
Yeah. And not only is it a museum, they have another building out front.
The old log building, yeah.
And where did that come from?
Over across the creek, it was originally the Sunny Valley Grange Hall. And they built a new Grange Hall up the creek a ways, and they was going to tear that one down. And so Betty bought it, and then I paid to have it moved over there, and we set it up for a kind of a recreation place.
Now, when you're talking Betty, who do you mean?
Betty Galsted, the one that owns the museum now.
And that building out front, I've been to weddings there.
Yeah.
I've been to Applegate Trail Museum, revisited, and the museum's a place I take all my visiting visiting company.
Right.
What?
And now this picture.
Were you in that movie that they show there?
No, I stayed out of that. We didn't get.
What an incredible reliving history.
And this picture here is an authentic picture of a bunch of the old stage drivers that drove the Siskiyous from Wairika to Canyon, about to Canyonville.
What's in their hand?
Whips, yeah.
Oops.
And there's a book out about them, and the title of it is called Knight of the Whip, which he was the knight, he was in charge, and each driver had his favorite whip he carried of his own, you know.
I'm sure he could whack it.
They never hit the horses so much, they just snapped it.
Right, pop it.
The horses would respond to a snap.
Did you ever try it? See if you could snap the whip?
Don't let him kid you. He did too, because that's how I grew up. Snap of the whip. So don't let him tell you a story here.
It wasn't one of these quite.
No.
No. And
Razor
this is Jimmy
strap?
Toogood here
Close.
that owned the stage stop. And he actually come to Oregon on the Oregon Trail, not the Applegate Trail. He come on the Oregon Trail, and he come right on through the Willamette Valley. He didn't stop and went into someplace in the gold fields in California. He did not like mining. It wasn't his thing. So he turned around and come right back because he remembers Sunny Valley going through it. And he come back, and he had the first land claim, I believe, in Josephine County. And he pretty much owned the whole valley. And Betty Galsted's, her home place is part of Jimmy Toogood's old original land claim, and she has a copy of the first land claim on her property. And one of these old drivers here was even married in the stage stop at Rocky Point. Had a big wedding there for him years ago.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that they've retained so much of this history and that we can actually go there and reenact or rent the facility for functions, family functions.
Yeah.
And just put a word in for Radio Park while we're here.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Well,
a quarter of a mile this way from here is a big old place called Radio Park. Why Radio Park?
Well, they in the late 20s, or about mid-20s, I'd say, I guess, it was a store, and they had the first radio in Sunny Valley, and everybody used to go there to listen to it because the first one was, of course, quite an oddity, you know, and most people couldn't afford them, but the store had one, and so that's how it got its name, a Radio Park, and it also was a kind of an auto court park too, you know, where they had 2 or 3 little cabins.
We dream of the day that Radio Park's restored to this finery because
it's getting close.
it will be a great place. And if you folks have treasures from your family history and you don't want to keep them anymore, it's nice to think of museums. And I took a radio up there, and you know, I'm looking forward to seeing it open and a lot of history right in our neighborhood.
Well, when the time comes that we get it open, I saved the old Radio Park sign off the front of the building.
I bet you did.
And they had an old, what they call a cannonball heater in there. And when they disposed of the property, the people took the heater, but I happen to have the duplicate to it. And we have the sign, and there'll be and I have a 1925 Atwater Kent radio that plays, and a 1927 General Motors radio cabinet model that plays. And they'll go, and there'll be a little corner of it that'll be kind of like an old Radio Park store in there.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. I
Yeah.
look forward to it. And it'll be it's a much bigger building that you could have public functions in.
That's what it'll be for, yeah.
Well, then we have where was the next stop after we left Two Goods?
Okay, after we leave Two Goods here in Sunny Valley, then the next stop would have been at Galesville.
Where's the Gale?
And there's a dam there now, you know, but there's no remains of the stage stop left. And from Galesville, then they crossed Cow Creek and went on to Canyonville. And one night, one of these old drivers here had weather was real bad, real muddy, and raining and pouring, and he had 4 head of horses on just a small mud stage. And he was headed towards from Galesville to Canyonville. And the Cow Creek was flooding, but he thought he could make it across. There was no bridge, they had to ford the creek. And he got the stagecoach right about the middle of the creek, or a little past it, and this lead team got up on the bank all right, but they couldn't pull it out, and the back team drowned. But he was able to stand up and take the Wells Fargo box and throw it real hard where it lit on the bank, and then he hit it, and then he had to walk to Canyonville and get help, and they brought more horses back and pulled the stagecoach out, but they lost the back team. They drowned time they got back. So that was I imagine quite an experience for him.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same canyon was a nightmare for the
Yeah.
for the people who were trying to come west, wasn't it?
Yeah, the canyon down from the top of the mountain down into Canyonville was the first trip through there. They lost everything, you might say. They never, not a one wagon got through complete. One guy got through with just the front wheels and a team of oxen. That's all he had, just the front wheels, and had his belongings just tied on the axle. The rest of them lost everything. And one guy had nursemaided 2 or 3 hives of bees all the way from Missouri to get honey and bees started in the Willamette Valley, and his wagon tipped over into the creek and lost all the bees.
Tough times.
Yes.
What can you tell about your dad's reliving this? Has it been
Well, that's part of the reason I retired from the post office, and I decided to come back here so I could spend some time with my dad. And I've learned a lot in the last 3 years that I've been here, just from going with him and doing things with him about the history of family history and just the history of Oregon, period. And it's things I can pass on to my grandkids, now my great-grandkids, and his great-great-grandkids. So hopefully I can remember enough of it to pass it on, and I'm trying hard to remember everything.
Well, that's how
There's so much to remember.
You're going to get a tape of this. Right, he's had a career. Your career has been...
we have 6 generations born in the Rogue River Valley.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
And
I got 4 grandkids, 3 great-grandkids, 2 great-great-grandkids, and a 3rd one on the way. That's enough.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What are you doing now? your rocking chair? You don't work
No,
or anything?
well, around Sunny Valley, I'll be either around the museum or the store, or up at the house, or just
I mean, you still work?
a little bit, not very much. I got the old man shift. I call it 2 half days in the store.
Yeah, if I want to call him, I have to call after 7 o'clock
Yeah.
because otherwise he's busy someplace. What about that I-5 blacktop that you got? How did you?
The what?
When they were rebuilding
Oh,
I-5?
yeah. Well, they're called grindings. They have a big machine that, when they're putting down new pavement, that grinds up the old pavement. And
You had a very bright idea of what to do
yeah,
with that.
they have to dispose of it. See, so you know, if you want a favor, you got to do a favor. And I knew this stuff was coming, and it would make a fabulous parking lot. So I made sure that the whole crew liked me. I furnished them a little cold pop and a candy bar too, and
Beer.
got along good with them. And then also we had a close place. They needed a close place to dispose of it. They didn't want to. They have to keep trucks really rolling because the grinder costs $600 an hour, and it uses about 600 gallons of water about every 45 minutes to keep them teeth that's grinding the pavement up from burning up. And they also had to have water. So, and we happened to have a 10,000 and an 8,000 gallon tank, both full with pumps on them. So I'd a lot of times furnish their water truck water too.
And you
Yeah.
pat their back, and what
That's
did
right.
they do to pat yours?
Yeah. So we got a lot of grindings and shale too. When they rebuilt the 2 bridges across Grave Creek, they filled in between them with black shale so they could continue traffic without shutting it down.
Sure.
And then when they got done, they had to take it out. And they needed there again a close place to dump it. And I got 280 10-yard loads of black shale given to us.
Can you imagine the savings of not having to haul that 50 miles to some dump site or
That's
something?
right.
So you were thinking
Yeah.
a double savings there. Now that's Radio Park, which we're looking for the future of it being open to the public for.
In time, yeah. It has to be hopefully by about May.
Oh,
Yeah.
in our future.
Yeah.
It'll be more like kind of like a banquet type room, you know, and for a lot of different events.
And not a grocery store or general store as it
no,
was. It'll
no.
be set up as a museum.
It'll be set up with some things to look at as well, you know, and to decorate with. And
Well, now there's one thing about Sunny Valley or Graves Creek you haven't mentioned. You are the only covered bridge.
that's visible from I-5, from the Canadian to the Mexican border.
And it's in perfect shape.
Yeah. Well, it was restored a few years ago. It cost $18,000 to build it in 1920. And when they restored it about 5 or 6 years ago, back to its original state, it cost $660,000. Times have changed a little bit.
When Deb Potts was on the show,
Yeah.
he had the nails from when they were taking the old bridge, restoring the bridge.
Yeah.
He went down in Graves Creek and came up with some of the original square nails.
And Deb gave me that can of nails. I got them.
Wow.
And
Now,
I got a picture of Deb and I sitting back in the back end of a covered wagon the day they dedicated the bridge.
he was there.
Yeah.
Maybe we could find that picture and cut it in. What about, why did they call it Graves Creek?
Well, the first wagon train that come through in 1846 had a young girl on it, Martha Leland Crowley. And the first wagon train that come the Applegate Trail were not accustomed to the Black Rock Desert, and they didn't pack enough water to get them across it. And they was drinking about anything they could find in the way of water and trying to boil it and purify it and whatnot, and it didn't work. And they lost an awful lot of people with what they called mountain fever, which was just no more than typhoid fever. And the Crowley girl got it. She's 16 years old, and she was just near death at the top of the mountain. And on the way down the mountain to Sunny Valley, she did pass away. And normally wagon trains just stayed one night in a spot, but they stayed 2 nights in Sunny Valley. And she had a boyfriend, and he had to knock some wagon sideboards and stuff apart and salvage any boards he could to make a casket for her. And they buried her over there on the other side of the creek, and that's where then the name got Graves Creek.
Well, it's a fascinating trip you've brought us on today, and I want to thank you so much to take us from Douglas County, into Douglas County, right?
No, Josephine County. Us?
Yeah, clear into Canyonville.
Canyonville is in Douglas County, yes.
And we've left California on that road north.
Yeah.
Siskiyou County.
Ashland to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville to Rocky Point, and Rocky Point to Lost Creek to Jump Off Joe to Sunny Valley to Galesville, and Galesville to Canyonville.
How many days would that trip have taken us? Do you know?
Well, when the first train come into Wairika, see, it was the train got to Ashland, and then it got to Wairika. It didn't get connected for several years because they had to dig tunnel 13 through the Siskiyous. And so when the first train come into Wairika, a lot of people in the Rogue River Valley had not even seen a train. And they got up a lot of stages to take people down there to see the first train. And my granddad, Floyd's great-granddad, hired to drive one of the stages down there, and it took 24 four-horse stages to take them, everybody from the Rogue River Valley to Wairika to see the first train come into town.
Now I know. I didn't know your family really was that connected with this.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for
Yeah,
your story
okay.
here. Thank you, Floyd,
My
for
pleasure.
bringing Dad along, and I hope you'll come back and tell the rest of the story.
I got a lot to be learned yet, but I'm learning it, and I'll be more than happy to come back.
And folks, that's what fathers do. They tell their stories to their kids and grandkids, and we're just do that for your kids, won't you please? I'm Bernie Martin Beck saying thanks so much for tuning in. And thank you for
You're
coming.
welcome.
And to Floyd, thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.